If you're thinking about living in Tennessee, you may be wondering if you should avoid moving to Tennessee for any reason. So what all do you need to know up front before moving to Tennessee? Keep watching. What's up, y'all? I'm Rachel Hadidsazrealtor with Epique Realty here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Today, let's talk moving to Tennessee. Things that you need to know before moving to Tennessee. Make the most of your Tennessee visit to explore all the different areas in Tennessee to live. Make sure to let me know down in the comments any and all of your concerns about moving to Tennessee, and I may address it in a future video. Let's get started on the things that you need to know before moving to Tennessee that might make you not want to live here. So, should you avoid moving to Tennessee because someone made a clickbait video telling you to avoid moving to Tennessee? Especially if that person has never actually lived in Tennessee. Anyone can gather information on the web and claim that that's an accurate perspective. But the truth is, you can only glean so much information from the internet. It's important to understand the source of your information and not just listen to people that may only be trying to get views on their YouTube channel. So before moving to Tennessee, you should know exactly how to plan a visit so that you can make the most of choosing where to decide to live in Tennessee. Of course, if there's something that you need to be close to, a job, a certain school zone, hospital, family, then it's easy enough to set up a search around those areas. On the other hand, if you're up for living anywhere, then I suggest a good old-fashioned road trip. You can head on over to the website www.tnvacation.com. Check out the Tennessee trails and byways, and there's tons of things to do. We have so much more in Tennessee than just the touristy areas like Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge. As I said, the Tennessee Trails and Byways, this is actually a hand-curated road trip that shows you different places of historical and cultural significance here in Tennessee. Drive the back roads, explore the state parks, and you might want to take an old school map because some places don't have cell service. Experiencing Tennessee firsthand like this is going to give your heart a chance to choose where it wants to be. As you explore life in Tennessee, you're going to notice that the culture in small towns is a lot different from those in the big cities. And even different from mid-sized cities as well. Small town Tennessee life is just that, small town. Your neighbor's favorite pastime may be sitting on the front porch. Everyone might know everyone, and they can be extra friendly or extra nosy depending on your perspective. If you move to a small town from a whole other state, expect people to be curious about why you decided to move to their small town. Now, don't get me wrong, most people are very kind and welcoming as long as you're a kind person. Neighbors here take care of one another, so it's a good idea to know who your neighbors are. Big cities will still have friendly vibes, but you can go unnoticed if you choose. Meeting new people here is as easy as going outside. But if you don't want to talk to your neighbors, to each their own. Where I live in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, it's often referred to as a big little town. Murfreesboro is part of the Nashville metro area, but we're a large city in our own right, 160,000 plus people and growing every day. We have that small town friendly vibe that brings in tons and tons of people. If you want to learn more about living in Murfreesboro, make sure you're subscribed to the channel because I've always got videos about Murfreesboro popping up here and there. On that same note, before moving to Tennessee, be prepared to meet all different types of people. Don't try to put us Tennesseans in a box of just one type of person. Movies and TV do tend to portray Southerners a certain way. Sweet, hospitable, maybe even a little dumb, and oftentimes Caucasian. Remember, Jolene was a sweet Southerner, but she still tried to take Dolly's man. Sometimes Southerners can even have a reputation of possibly being bigoted. While 3/4 of the population in Tennessee is white, and most of the minorities do tend to stay closer to the cities, the vast majority of people in Tennessee are not bigoted. You will see more diversity around large and mid-sized cities, where universities are, as well as where the corporate jobs are located. Small towns are truly going to be 90% white or more. And I'm gonna be honest, you might come across some ignorance and small-mindedness from time to time. I know I have. But for the most part, most Tennesseans are welcoming of all different walks of life and friendly to everyone they come across. The golden rule is alive and well in Tennessee. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And my mama always said, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. Speaking of being kind, let's talk about kindness on the roadways. As the larger cities get bigger, I do hear of some really tragic situations on the news where road rage caused an injury or a fatality. These types of things are really sad, and Tennessee is not immune. I always recommend leave early enough so that you don't have to drive like a maniac and don't antagonize other drivers on the roadway, because you truly don't know who's driving with a gun in their car. Speaking of crime and safety in Tennessee, there are statistics on the internet that says Tennessee has a lot of crime. I personally feel that these statistics don't tell the whole story. And as someone who has lived in Tennessee their entire life, I personally feel that the majority of areas in Tennessee are safe to visit and live. However, it's important to remember that crime can happen anywhere. So just use common sense and protect yourself. Always lock your doors, especially at night. Make sure that you're parking in a well-lit area in the parking lot. Be vigilant of your surroundings. Some even have alarm systems and security cameras. And some homeowners in Tennessee will have guns. I do think that break-ins tend to happen when criminals think that you're not home. So you might try to leave on a light when you leave for an overnight trip. Make your home look like it's occupied. And as I said, stay safe on the roadway. Don't antagonize other drivers, because you never know who is kind of a maniac. Be smart and you'll be fine. On the other hand, there can also be crimes in Tennessee that's related to the opioid epidemic that has just brutalized the South. Keep in mind that a lot of crimes can be drug related, so just try to stay away from drugs. And if you have loved ones that are addicted, try to get them the help that they need. Speaking of safety in Tennessee, let's talk about severe weather in Tennessee and how to stay safe from things like tornadoes and flooding. So if you do look at the national news about Tennessee tornadoes and flooding, just know that the national news isn't going to pick it up until it's really bad, right? However, it's really just a very small micro percentage of people that will be affected by things like that. When you read statistics that there were 30 tornadoes in a year, that can sound scary when you don't think about the context. Often when conditions are ripe for a tornado, several tornadoes can pop up, and they don't always happen in an area where people are occupied. They can last for a few minutes to a few miles. And you're really only going to hear about the ones that affect lives, especially the ones that happen at night. My recommendation is to just stay very much weather aware. If you know that severe weather is expected, keep an eye on it. Here's the age-old question: do you need to have a basement to live in Tennessee? No, you do not. The majority of homes in Tennessee do not have a basement because it's very expensive to dig. On that note, do you need a tornado shelter? Not necessarily. As long as your home is built on a foundation and you have a safe place on the lowest level of your home that doesn't have any windows, like a closet or a bathroom, that's where your safe place will be. Here in Murfreesboro, the last time a tornado touched down was 2009. In the time that I've lived here in Murfreesboro for the past 6 years, I've had to take shelter one time for about 20 minutes. And that's because the meteorologists nowadays, they can pinpoint down to the street where the tornado is and where it is headed. And with tornadoes can oftentimes come hail, damaging winds, really heavy rain. We can also get damaging winds and heavy rain from a really bad thunderstorm. It's usually not a problem, but you do see some flash flooding from time to time and some flooding of small creeks and rivers. There can be thunderstorms that are strong enough to knock down heavy branches and even trees. A standard homeowner's insurance policy will cover this. And keep in mind that some homes in Tennessee will require flood insurance if you are located in the floodplain. To find out whether a flood claim has ever been made on a property, you can just ask the insurance company to pull a clue report. By the way, if you're looking at the FEMA flood factor, realize that that's a newer thing. Take those with a grain of salt because sometimes I've found them to be entirely inaccurate. When in doubt, speak with the insurance company about any property that you're concerned where there is risk for flooding. By the way, if you're finding any value at all in this video, hit the like button really quick and I really appreciate it. So let's talk Tennessee housing. Home values have really been on the rise in the past few years. And some areas are downright unaffordable for a one-income household. The median home price for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Tennessee in March of 2022 is $275K. That's only on about 1/4 of an acre to a 1/2 acre lot. So keep in mind, if you want a bigger home, more land, any type of more uniqueness to the property, you could end up paying more for that. And it's very possible that you could find what looks like a great deal on one of those real estate websites, but then when you take a closer look, you can find that it's an hour from a hospital. Maybe the school zones aren't as highly sought after, or maybe there's no internet. You got to take the good with the bad sometimes, and if you want to be off the grid completely, there are a few places where you can essentially live off the grid. As far as prices go, West Tennessee does tend to be more affordable. Middle Tennessee is going to be at the higher range. East is somewhere in the middle, but that's because more of the higher paying jobs are located here in Middle Tennessee. Take Williamson County, for example. It has seen a significant amount of growth in the past few years. It's a great place to live. It has a really high median income, highly sought after schools, and you can live close to famous people. What's better than that? But even places with not a lot to do have also seen significant increases in their home values. Low interest rates, migration out of cities, an aging millennial population has really contributed to the rising cost of housing nationwide, and Tennessee is no exception. All this goes a little bit hand in hand with rising property values. And keep in mind that as property values increase, it's safe to assume that the property taxes will increase. The good news is that Tennessee is on the lower end when it comes to paying property taxes. We're still far below states like Texas, California, New York, Illinois. But it is something to keep in mind. Here in Murfreesboro, I live in the city. I paid $1,100 for 2021. Still finding out what I'm going to be paying for next year. My townhome has nearly doubled in value since the last assessment, and this is an assessment year for my county. As the cost of living everywhere increases nationwide, we're seeing the same thing happen here in Tennessee. It's March of 2022, and right now gas is just over $4 a gallon here in Tennessee. The state is even considering suspending the gas tax for 90 days to give some people relief at the pump. And as the cost of gas has increased, so has the cost of everything from food to retail, personal items. Slow to stagnant wage growth is far outmatched by the cost of living for some. So if none of this is a deal breaker for you, go ahead and click on this next video to research how to buy a home in Tennessee. I put a video together just for you. Give this video a like and subscribe with the bell so that you'll be the first to know when I post a new video. I have so much more to tell you about life and real estate in Tennessee. So I'll see you at the next video.